That is correct.
Offensive take.
I gave you. Oh, look at that Christmas card. That is a beautiful Christmas card here,
Yeah.
and nice Christmas card to see on the opening of the episode 107 here of the Three Guys Talking Ball podcast.
A picture that I took.
A picture that Grant took. Jeez, they must have been desperate. They
buddy.
desperate or cheap, and they didn't want to spend money on a professional photographer.
Photographers are expensive. We bypass that.
Yeah, that is true. I've been told, anyways. But episode 107, guys, what is going on? How what was the weather like over in the cities today? It was 60 degrees in Dickinson. It was a beautiful day today.
Yeah, it was 50 degrees today.
God dang. I like this. I like this calmer weather, calmer winter milder winter that they say we are going to have. Knock on wood. Hopefully it continues.
Big global warming fan. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't it El Nino? Is that the word we're looking for?
Yeah, it's like causing it to be warmer.
Yeah. Which we're due after the last 2 winters we've had of just straight a bunch of snow and a bunch of miserable cold, shitty roads. You name it. It was not fun, especially when you have to. Your job is driving around on roads most of the day. It's have a couple of stressful days. You learn how to white knuckle a steering wheel. But made it through. Didn't go into the ditch at all. Knock on wood. Hopefully that continues for another winter. Hopefully I don't have to come into a situation where I really got to deal with it. But guys, college football playoff. The college football playoff matchups are set. Michigan, the 1 seed, playing Alabama. The 2 versus 3 is Washington versus Texas. And, the first time that this committee has actually been forced to make a real decision outside of the very first year, which I guess is fitting, the first and the last, where they actually had to sit down and discuss decisions of, going back to 2014 in the first committee was who do you put in? TCU, Baylor, Ohio State. They ultimately chose Ohio State and ended up working out for the Buckeyes. Boo.
Yeah.
But which also similarly so, the team that got left out was a team that lost their quarterback Jordan Travis in Florida State. A lot of false promises by politicians threatening legal action, drafting legislation about this, but in any politics, it's just empty promises. So
don't we have bigger fish to fry than worrying about if Florida State got hosed out of the college football playoff or not?
Grant, it is the South. Football is life.
Well, that's fine. But at the end of the day, these assholes, I know they're supposed to represent their people of Florida, but their decisions affect me. So they can politely go to hell and stop worrying about this because I don't care.
Wait, well, exactly. They have no idea. They have no idea of what's going on.
Care.
They hear about it, and all the responses, they come out like 2 or 3 days later after the dust is settled and everything has kind of a little bit, I wouldn't say bypassed, but things have cooled down. They're a day late and a dollar short.
That's fair.
Well, and then also the NFL action happened on Sunday, and then we forgot about the college football committee. That was the thing to talk about until about 10:45 on Sunday night, and then when that happened, people are like, "We got to digest Week 13."
Yeah, that's right. But guys, so what are your initial thoughts here of the 14 playoff? Did the committee get it right? Did they get it wrong? Let's embrace debate.
I absolutely think they got it right. At the end of the day, you need to have the best 4 teams. And people are talking about it's a slap in the face to Florida State. It's also a slap in the face to Michigan if you put them in. Like, that's not a game. That's basically playing Minnesota all over again. Like, granted, Florida State's better than Minnesota. They're going to wallop them. They're going to demolish them. Why not give Michigan a challenge instead of just giving them a pass? Like, at that point,
we said that last year about TCU, but
I know, but this is different. Like, their quarterback looks like he can barely walk and chew gum at the same time. TCU actually had an NFL level quarterback, so like, let's not kid ourselves. But if Michigan comes out, like, they would have beat the living snot out of them. So like, Alabama obviously can't say that. That's going to be a much closer game, probably the better game of the 2. I would honestly think.
I agree.
But it's screw it. Like, they can be as mad as they want. Like, injuries are part of the game. It happens. It is what it is.
Well, and then also, guys, there's some writing inside the committee on their selection. And Barrero shared this the other day. I think it was something along the lines of, if an important player is hurt or it hampers your ability on the field, that comes into our selection.
As it should.
Boom, right there. Case is over. Florida, they only beat Florida by 9, and a Louisville team that lost to Kentucky the week before, you only beat them by 10. They couldn't hold up. And I'm with Ethan. I think they got it right. Alabama deserved to be in there. They avenged their only one loss, on the year. And on paper, I think they're better than Florida State. And, I know we said this last year about Michigan and TCU. Well, that was a tale of two halves. Michigan didn't show up in the first half. When they showed up in the second half, they would have killed. If they would have showed up the way they did in the second half that they did the first half, they would have killed TCU. So you got to have a competitive game. And also, I'm sorry, but Mike Norvell versus Jim Harbaugh doesn't draw headlines. You know what does? Nick Saban versus Jim Harbaugh. And when you're throwing all this money for advertisers out there, if I can create a storyline, let's do it. So I have no problem. I think they got it right, and I think Alabama's better than Florida State.
I'm not disagreeing that, yes, on paper, Alabama is better than Florida State. But I think if we're going by just the 4 best teams, then why is Georgia not in? Games, if we're going to go by 4 best, I don't think it can be just that. I think it still needs to be settled on the field. Yes, Florida State lost their quarterback, and they were playing with a third string against Louisville, but they will have 3 weeks to prepare. They'll have 3 weeks to get their quarterback ready. Rodemaker will be back. Is he great? We don't know, but 3 weeks. I think going undefeated in a Power 5 conference is difficult. You can have the best quarterback in college football, and you can go 7-5. USC Caleb Williams. I wasn't shocked, but I'm not on the committee. I would have put Florida State in because I think in the end, if you go undefeated, you should be in the college football playoff regardless. And yes, Ohio State did it with Cardale Jones. I think Cardale Jones is miles ahead of Rodemaker or whoever they threw out there in the ACC championship game. But if we're going by, like you guys said, the best 4 best, yeah, Alabama is by far and away better. But I think we were put in a spot this year where there were 5 teams that absolutely deserve to go, but there's only 4. And talking about the quarterback too, who says what if Michael Penix gets hurt or Quinn Ewers or any of the 4 quarterbacks get hurt you can get hurt at any time. What if they get hurt during bowl prep? Do you take them out and say, hey, you're swapping places? I think football is a team game, and Florida State found a way to win no matter what. Will they? We don't know. That's why the game's got to get settled on the field. We'll preview the national or the playoffs as the week prior to as it gets closer here. Looking, probably it would be episode would be out. Well, we'd record it the 27th, so yeah, about 2 weeks. We got some other things to discuss before we could probably talk about some bowls.
Dylan,
next week. I think it was going to be a good opportunity. We could rate coaching hires. What do you guys say?
Coaching hires
for college?
Yeah.
Do that.
I mean, yeah. I think there's still got to be a couple more out there.
That's why I'm saying we do it next week, so there's a little bit more time. We get some more announcements.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be. But another thing I will say this, Dylan. I think I mentioned this last week. Had Florida State won that game 38-7,
they're in.
I think they would have been in. Ohio State got in with a backup quarterback because they put up 59 on a good Wisconsin team. Style points matter. This is an instance where Kirk Ferentz, you're wrong. Style points do matter in the eye of the selection committee. So I think that also was going against Florida State too. They didn't make it look good.
It could have. But yeah, it's definitely. I think we're promised two tremendous matchups in the games. Definitely sucks that we got to wait 3 weeks before next year. We're not going to have to because I'm guessing it's going to happen. Probably. What do they get? Are they going to get a week off before for the Heisman?
Well,
And then
I think so. And the next year, here's the thing: if it was next year's thing, Florida State, they'd still be in the dance, but they wouldn't be getting the bye. That's the
yeah,
important thing next year is the top four get a bye or a 2 week bye. But just with in the world we live in with the Heisman, Dylan, eh, depending on when they want to play these games and when they don't, you could just straight up just go to having the Heisman virtually, where if they need to play right away, depending on how this thing goes.
Like Barry Sanders in Japan.
Exactly. You could just do it over Zoom. You send the trophy to whatever university the kid's gonna win it, and boom, life is good. You don't need to get all dolled up in New York for no reason. I mean, it's a ceremony nobody watches anymore.
or what they could do is they could do like a big banquet at the end, like before
before the title game,
the Sunday before the national title game, and kind of
100%.
what the FCS does with their playoffs. That is something. But since we're on the topic of the Heisman Trophy here, good segue, Grant. I give you a point for that. Now Heisman ceremony is this week. The candidates were announced. So, fellas, who is your Heisman winner? Who do you think's bringing home the hardware?
I might be biased considering Grant bet on this guy, but I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. The numbers he put up this year McCord's okay, not a great quarterback. I'd say above average. He was unstoppable. Like even the game versus Michigan, I think he went over 100, had at least one touchdown.
I think it was 5 for like 135 or 115.
I think he went over 100 yards almost every single game. Like it was just nuts. And he's easily the best prospect to come out since probably Larry Fitzgerald, which is really saying something.
For as much as I want to toot my own horn and say I picked him in April, I got to go with Jayden Daniels. And to me, this isn't even close. The award is for the most outstanding player. He put up 50 total touchdowns. I think he only threw 4 interceptions. He, I think 500, almost 5,000, 4,800 yards of total offense. Like it's not even close. Like people's argument that Michael Penix Jr. should be in there because his team is undefeated and they won the Power 5. Blah blah blah. Congratulations. That's a Washington team award, not an individual team award. And Jayden Daniels' stats are just so much better than everyone else, and he was so dominant. Don't give me this whole he was on a 9-3 team. No, this is an individual award, and if it wasn't for Jayden Daniels, LSU would be 6-6. So I'm gonna go with the quarterback down in the Bayou. Give me Jayden Daniels.
I was gonna go with him, but I wanted to be biased for you, Grant, so you didn't have to be.
And I appreciate that, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, Mercury Sable Marv is not going to be winning the Heisman. It's going to be Jayden Daniels. 3,800 yards, 40 touchdowns, 72% completion percentage, another 1,100 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns. Probably most dominant player in college football this year by far. Had a tremendous year, and I think after LSU had that second loss, they just said, screw it, we're just going to go get Jayden Daniels the Heisman, and he put up the stats, he delivered. And this is where the 12-team playoff would be interesting, is you get a guy like him in the playoffs, see what type of damage he can do. A team that LSU, that after the Alabama loss has been on that upward trajectory. But I got to go with Jayden Daniels. I don't know if he specifically had a Heisman moment this year, but just always, and I think a lot of that was because his defense did not help him out at all. He was just the most consistent game by game best player from week 1 to week 13. And, I think Bo Nix had an argument going into last week. And if he would have found a way to bring Oregon back to beat Washington, he is probably going to be the one holding up the trophy on Saturday. But I gotta go with Jayden Daniels as well.
Well, and guys, you could really argue this year for all these candidates, there was no true Heisman moment. Like I can't, pinpoint and say, oh, Bo Nix, it was this moment right here. Well, when he needed to come up clutch 2 times this year against Washington, he fell flat on his face. Michael Penix Jr., it could be that drive in October, but that first game against Oregon was in October. And, last Friday, they just kind of dominated that game. They got the ball out quick and his receivers made plays. Marvin Harrison Jr., like Ethan said, he was a dominant player, but he didn't have that Devontae Smith game against LSU
0-3 against Michigan.
or against Michigan, like Dylan said this year. But like I said, when Devontae won it, he had that game against LSU where you were just like, okay, this dude is on a different level right now. There just really wasn't a Heisman moment this year, and you could even argue these last couple of years there really hasn't been one since Bryce Young came back in the Iron Bowl in 2021. So again, I'm going to say Jayden Daniels, and I don't think it should particularly be close.